Nicaragua and Honduras and other places, flooding, hurricanes, that type of thing. So I believe the government looked at the situation there on the ground and assessed that it is no longer unsafe in that way, and that people should be allowed to head back home. So beyond that, I just have to refer you to the Acting Secretary's office for that.
Really quickly, is this the type of situation that Secretary Tillerson himself participates in? Does this rise to the Secretary's level?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But beyond that, just in terms of the interagency stuff, I'm just not going to be able to comment on some of those deliberations. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Can I ask a
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I know you may not be able to answer this, but was the acting secretary's determination consistent with what the State Department recommended?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry. Okay. Saeed, let me call in some other people, okay? Okay, because it's not the Saeed show either. Come on, I like you. All right, we'll do it. Let's go.
Really, very quickly. Last week, the Israelis denied entry to a Palestinian American who works with the Amnesty International under the pretext that he is he does advocacy against it. Are you concerned that Israel may be using two different scales in terms of treating Americans? Should they treat all Americans the same when they enter into the country?
We've certainly seen that report about the Amnesty International person who was stopped at a crossing last week. We are always concerned about the safety and security of Americans. My understanding is that he is a U.S. citizen. Beyond that, I just have to refer you to the government of Israel for any information.
But you would expect Israel to treat all Americans the same way, right?
Would I expect? I would expect Israel to treat Americans in accordance with the law. Certainly. Okay. All right.
On climate and Paris
climate time. Okay.
Government of France said today they have invited 100 head of states and government to their conference summit in December in Paris, but not President Trump.
Okay, I'm not aware of that.
The same day we learned that even Syria is to join the Paris Agreement. So do you think that United States and the President should be present at such an event? And don't you fear that America is more and more alone on this topic?
Well, first of all, I find it ironic that the government of Syria, would say that it wants to be involved and that it cares so much in climate and things like CO2 gases. If the government of Syria cared so much about what was put in the air, then it wouldn't be gassing its own people. As some of you may know, our Undersecretary for Political Affairs, Tom Shannon, will be joining a meeting later this month in Bonn, Germany, in which we will, in Bonn? Is it this week? Okay, sorry, I'm off on my dates a little bit, but he'll be joining that meeting representing the U.S. delegation in Bonn. And, pardon me? Next week. Okay. So I'm not totally crazy on my time. That is the Conference of Parties, the COP23 at the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, and Undersecretary Tom Shannon is leading the U.S. delegation on that. In terms of our overall position on the Paris Agreement, as you may well know, nothing has changed in our position. We will still follow the President's decision on that matter. The United States looks at that, and we intend to withdraw from the Paris Agreement as soon as we're eligible to do so, unless the President, and he's been very clear about saying this, unless he's able to identify terms of engagement that he feels are more favorable to American businesses, workers, and taxpayers.
Do you know, is that something that Undersecretary Shannon is going to be exploring while he is leading the U.S. delegation?
I don't know. I haven't asked him. I saw him. He was in Bangladesh. We spent a little time together there, but we did not talk about this issue. I can certainly see if I have something on that.
It's because he's leading the U.S. delegation, so this is a State Department delegation, essentially. I mean, are there other agencies represented?
I'm not sure. I'll find out.
I'm just curious because not only did the Syrians say that they would join, and whether or not you think it's ironic or
seriously, come
ridiculous,
on. Syria
whatever,
joining, Syria really cares?
Well, it is another indication of America first being America alone, is it not?
No, Matt. No.
You had a vote in the UN.
If you want to put in some kind of moral equivalency between Syria and the United States, that's just frankly laughable, and I'm not even going to go there.
It's not that it's Syria that happened to be the last country other than the U.S. to join it. It could have been any country. the point of the matter is, the fact of the matter is, you're the only country that's not in it anymore.
Look, the president has said that he is going to assess this situation.
Okay.
If we could get a more favorable deal for American businesses, American workers, and taxpayers, then we will look at that. But we continue to go forward with the plan of pulling out of the Paris Accords. But there are other accords that we may still remain in.
Okay, can you explain why exactly the administration thought it would be appropriate to host an event promoting coal use at the Conference of Parties?
Yeah.
Meeting?
There may be people who do not like coal, but the reality is that coal powers about 30% or so of the electricity and the power here in the United States. Coal is a reality, whether people like it or not. It is a reality. It heats our homes. It
Some
electricity.
argue that it heats the planet as well.
Okay, but the fact is, coal is a reality. Whether people like it or not, it's a reality. And so it's a reality that we have to deal with. And so the United States is holding some conversations in which the United States will talk about coal. The United States will also talk about nuclear power. That is a reality. Some countries don't like it, but it is reality. And we're dealing with that right now.
So you went after the Syrian government for allegedly caring about CO2 emissions, and yet this country, the United States is hosting this event that promotes the use of coal, which
So now you're
produces
comparing
CO2.
coal to gassing civilians in Syria.
No, that's not at all, and I don't think anyone in this room thinks that's what I'm doing.
Well, then
You talked about CO2 emissions in
I'm saying,
Syria.
look, if Syria cares so much about the environment, I mean, this is a ridiculous conversation, Matt, but Syria cares so much about its environment, it's not gassing and killing innocent civilians, including women and children. Okay, let's move on from there.
You'll have to take this, I think.
Okay.
It's very quick. It's
Okay.
on Bahrain. I asked you about these people who were arrested. It was your
Yeah.
last briefing. Since in between then and now, there's been some letters that have been written on their behalf to the
Okay.
Secretary of the Department. Can you? Well, I know that you probably don't. I forgot to.
I do
ask.
not have anything new for you on
Can
that.
you check?
I can check and
Thank
follow
you.
up, okay? Ilhan, hi.
On Turkey visa situation, yesterday it seemed like there was some progress on the visa, and the U.S. statement came out from your office that the U.S. received some high-level assurances from Turkey. Then the Turkish embassy here in Washington issued another statement and basically said that denied and said that the Turkish government cannot provide any assurances, and also your statement does not reflect the real, do not reflect the truth, and consider it odd. So, what is the?
Yeah. So what is the situation right now? I think that's the question. So we were able to announce, I believe it was just yesterday, that a limited number of appointments are now being taken for all non-immigrant visa classes. So people who want to obtain visas are now able to do so in both Istanbul and Ankara. That is based on what we consider to be improved security conditions at our U.S. mission in Turkey. We are prioritizing, we're only able to do this on a limited basis right now, but we are prioritizing medical, humanitarian, and also student visas in those cases. We've had a series of what I would describe as fairly positive conversations with the government of Turkey. I mean, this is certainly a step in the right direction. It's a positive step. We have received limited assurances that if something should happen with our staff, if Turkey wants to detain our staff, that we will be given a heads up. That's among the things that we were assured. We were told that they wouldn't arrest our people simply for doing their jobs. We still have 2 of our locally employed staff members who have been detained. In terms of Turkey's questioning of our previous statements, I can just show you, I can tell you that the safety and security of our folks is a top issue. The people who were detained, as a natural course of their business, had to engage with law enforcement, with the Turkish government. That is something that is an appropriate part of their job. It is a part of their job description, and for Turkey to put people in jail and claim that they are involved in activities when they're simply doing their jobs, we think is incorrect. But nevertheless, they've taken some steps in the right direction, and we've taken some steps in the right direction.
So limited services means students, just 3.
We are prioritizing certain types of visas because it's still somewhat limited: medical, humanitarian, and also student visas for now. Okay.
That's not, there's not a quantity, like a number.
No,
is
there's
there?
not. There's not a number. It's just we have limited people who are able to work on that, and so we're pushing forward. Okay, we're going to have to wrap it up. So I'll take one last question. Hold on. Look, I've already called him. So hey, yeah. Okay.
So last week, Cuban foreign minister just held a press conference here in Washington and claiming that there was not at all any attacks just in the U.S. embassy in Havana. So what is your response to that?
I don't have his comments directly in front of me, so I hesitate to comment on something that I have not seen myself. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
And please, regarding, again, the situation with the visas, has there been any change, given the difficulty for Cubans to travel abroad, like to Bogota, to access their visas to come to the United States?
Last I've heard, that's where we're still processing visas for people who want to come to the United States.
One last thing, please.
Yes.
The Cuban government said that Cuban Americans can now travel, if they wish, to Cuba to dock in tourist areas with recreational vessels. How does the State Department see this?
I'm not aware of that, so I'm sorry I don't have an answer for you on that. Okay? Thanks, guys. We're going to go. Okay, yeah.